Hello, I'm Liz Ackley, and today I'm going to talk about something which has been a part of what I've been grappling with recently, and that is procrastination. And what I mean by that is sort of preventing myself from getting on with the artwork by all sorts of excuses and means and ways. And so what I'm going to do today is I'm going to share some of that with you, but mainly what I'm going to do is I'm going to move on from that and actually talk about my top tips for how to deal with that and what to do as a way of moving on. This Nike phrase, just do it. And so just getting on with it. And so that's going to be the focus. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about some of the projects, or one particular project that I'm going to come on to do as a way of getting me moving and motivated. But first of all, what I want to do is to talk to you about and you might recognise yourself in this, is the ways in which I was procrastinating and the ways in which I've been observing myself behaving. And so the first thing I wanted to sort of share was that you'll probably remember a couple of few weeks ago in January, I shared my planning process, which a lot of you are, saying, oh, that's really impressive, it's very detailed, and that's all well and good, but, just spending all that time planning and constantly planning and focusing on the planning is kind of an avoidance mechanism in a way. And I recognise that although planning is great, and you need to do some of it, to keep going with it and looping round, which is what I was starting to do, and all of these wonderful mind maps was actually getting in the way of me just getting on with things. So that's one thing. And then the other thing is I was coming up with all of these excuses, and I'll share some of them with you. So my first excuse was I don't have a studio, and of course this is going to be my studio, surrounding here, that's why I'm sort of sitting here. But of course it's not in studio mode yet, so that's one thing. I was then using the excuse of time. I don't have time because I'm doing these renovations and I've got stuff going on, so I don't have time to do the artwork. And another one was I don't have it's not the right sort of time of year. The weather's really bad, I want to go out and do some studies, but it's too cold, too wet, too this, too that. So that's another thing. And then another thing I was doing was, I need to do lots of research, and I need to sort of look at all of these books, and these books for inspiration, and these other artists this, and all of that sort of background stuff. But that is fine to a point, but again, it gets totally in the way when you're using that as a way of preventing you from just getting on with things. And I think, me especially, but I'm sure a lot of us are the same, we need to remember that we don't have to have all our ducks in a row. I mean, for me, I don't think half of them have probably disappeared, and I've got 3 pigeons or something. So anyway, it's not, you don't have to have everything lined up and everything perfect. It's not how it works. And the other thing I think, which is really important, is, and this is very true for me, and I'm sure a lot of creatives as well, that I don't just I'm not sort of sitting waiting for this big idea to happen. That's not how it works, really. It's you do the work, and from the work comes the direction and the ideas and the ways forward, not the other way around. So I think that's really important to kind of think, to kind of be conscious of, really. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to talk about my top 5 tips for ways in which, ways of thinking about this and ways of moving on from the procrastination mode and into action. My first top tip is to recognise what you are doing. Recognise and accept that you are avoiding, and observe yourself as I did. And only then can you start addressing it and doing something about it. And my second top tip is to not overwhelm yourself with some singing or dancing project, but keep things low key. It's about small steps, not trying to sort of go hell for leather. In my case, I'm not trying to get some, have some sort of massive project that is going to lead me necessarily to a big solo show. I'm literally just getting going. I'm working as you can see, in my local area, just getting going. Small steps, no big project in mind, just moving forward, no big idea. Because I think that in itself can be, in the end, limiting. I think it is better just to get going. So as the phrase goes, you don't eat the elephant. It's just about those small steps, and in my case, just here on the coast, no big project in mind, but that in itself will evolve and change as I do the work. And I think it's very easy to get overwhelmed with singing or dancing projects, so much better to start off like this and to get our mojos back, so to speak, and get ourselves into the groove so that we can continue. With what you've got is another important thing, I think. And although I was talking to myself about not having a studio space, what I then decided I would do is to actually create this small space within this blue room, as I call it. And no, it's not perfect, but I have a desk, I have some art materials, a limited palette, but that's all good because I often think that by having a limited palette, it frees us up and stops us getting overthinky. And I've got some of the artwork that I created on location, and some of which I've been reformatting in the studio. And my tip number 4 is consistency. Be consistent. Consistency is everything. And what I have on the desk here is some of the materials and things I'm going to be using for the 100-day project. And I'm only introducing it here now as a way of explaining this idea of consistent, doing something regularly and often. I'm not going to go into the details. I'll do that on a separate video. But suffice to say that by doing these things on a very regular basis, it really does enable you to generate much more than you think you would be able to do. And so just briefly, I'm going to be using postcard size paper. I'm going to be creating studies on location down at the coast. I have a mind map for some of the details of those studies, which I won't go into, and materials. And I'm also going to be writing some notes, some journaling associated with it. And my plan is to spend 20 to 30 minutes a day or less doing this, preferably less. And the point is that you do not need hours and hours and hours to do things. If I was going to be painting in the studio, and obviously my studio is not ready yet, but if I was, you don't need to spend 8 hours a day in there. There's always this sense that you need to spend hours and hours doing things, and you don't. Little and often is often much better, regularly, but short bursts. And so, often it's used as an excuse. We don't have all those hours, so we don't do it at all. And the way around that is to do it for much less time. And that's really important. So as I say, I'll come back to this 100-day project. But if you want to join me, or if you want to do your own 100-day project as a great way of getting you consistent, of getting you over this idea of procrastination, then it starts on the 23rd of February. And my 5th and final top tip is, in conjunction with being consistent, is to be adaptable, to be flexible, because with all the will in the world, things happen and things change. And so by being flexible and being able to adapt ourselves, we enable ourselves to keep on with being consistent. In a sense, that just really helps move our projects on. And so, for example, you might find that you just don't have as much time as you thought. So cut the time, half the time. You might find that you have no energy, so make it easier. Or I might find in my 100-day project that I can't do it every day for 100 days. So I might do more on the days that I can do it, so and sort of make up for it that way. Or I might find that I extend beyond the 100 days so that I can do it. So whatever way it takes for you to keep showing up for yourself and moving things on, then it pays to be adaptable in that way, so you can keep with being consistent. So I hope those tips have been helpful, and please do like and subscribe if you haven't already. And I'd love to hear your comments, and I'll catch you next time. So thanks a lot. Bye bye.